Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Oh, well, hello and welcome in to Game Over Toronto after a much needed win. I'm fired up after that one, man. Welcome into Game Over Toronto. My name is Zach Payne. I will be your host for this evening following a 2-1 win over the Colorado Avalanche. And, right off the top, that was everything that a lot of Leaf fans needed to see in this one. All right, well, what were the storylines of the past few weeks? Leafs have given up a few too many goals, right? Few too many goals. Joseph Woll, he's maybe not been his best. He comes in, has a fantastic game, and holds the Avs to 1 goal. 0-5 on 5, they get a power play goal. Okay, what else? Okay, well, Jake McCabe, his play's been slipping a little bit. It hasn't quite been as good as it was earlier in the season. He comes out and has maybe his best game of the season. And of course, the number one thing, Austin Matthews has been struggling. What's wrong with him? Is he injured? Should he be playing this much? He comes out and he has a dominant game. I know he only has the 1 goal in the stat sheet, and ironically enough, it's the shot that was not even a shot. It just deflected off Devontae's in front. But Austin Matthews, in all facets of this game, was an animal, and he looked like the MVP self that he used to be in previous seasons. So welcome in. We're going to talk about it all here on Game Over Toronto. But first things first, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Make sure you follow us if you're on a podcasting platform and leave us a review. Follow the Game Over Network on all social media. You can follow me at ZachPayne41, and let's get into it. Now, first things first, Kay in the chat from Game Over Montreal, who also moonlights as a Colorado fan, says, "Your awful, terrible team is ruining my life." That typically means a lot of things went right. And honestly, to say that a lot of things went right, like if you look at this game, if you look at the box score, you'll see 2-1, and the Avs outshot the Leafs like 39-25. In a vacuum, that doesn't look very good, but it is worth noting that for the majority of this game, Colorado was doing their best Carolina Hurricanes impression and just throwing things on from the outside. But sure, Matthews can perform versus Cale Makar, but can he perform versus David Savard, the God? We'll see in the playoffs. Maybe. I don't know. There's a game, what is it? I think it's game 8. Is it 80 or 79 or something? Where like 4 games to go that the Leafs and Habs play, K. So you can, that might be determining if oh my Lord, if the Leafs keep the Habs out of the playoffs. I just thought of that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But going through this game, the Avs to start the game, like I think the shots at the end of the first, let's find out. What were the shots at the end of the first? After 1, the shots were 13-5 in favor of Colorado. And again, you look at that and you think, wow, Colorado must have dominated them in the first period. The high danger chances were 3-2 for the Avs. It was not very eventful hockey. The 13-5 shots were very misleading. Toronto had a couple attempts that got blocked in there as well. Colorado did a pretty good job, but it was very much like watching a Hurricanes game where it's just all of this stuff from the outside, low danger stuff that has no chance of going in. And I'm very grateful because you stat pad Joseph Woll's save percentage a bit, but if it really was not it was not as dominant to start for most of the game as the shots would indicate. Now, obviously, as Terry puts it, if not for Woll, the Leafs lose tonight, and we will get to that because Joseph Woll definitely had to come up clutch as the game progressed, as Colorado started to press a little bit more. So the first note I had in the first period, as these these low event games play out, not a lot of chances. When there is a chance, it's very noteworthy. It's also very noteworthy when a defenseman gets a high danger chance, because for the Leafs, that doesn't happen very often. And it is especially noteworthy when someone who is not exactly known for his hands pulls off something truly remarkable. And Jake McCabe, on the half wall in the offensive zone, pulls the Patrick Kane, like if you recall, 2010 Stanley Cup Finals overtime Game 6, Patrick Kane's cup-winning goal. He's on the half boards. He does this little shimmy. Jake McCabe pulls off the Patrick Kane shimmy around Devon Toews and shakes him, gets him on his back hip, drives the net, and absolutely just ruins Cale Makar's ankles. I'm pretty sure his jockstrap is still in the rafters of Scotiabank Arena. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen Jake McCabe do in his life. And he got a hide. Blackwood unfortunately stopped it because that would have been hilarious. But against the two best defenders on the Avs, Jake McCabe made them look amateurish. And I will say, not the best game for those two on the Avs because did Makar have some rough moments at both ends of the ice. Makar was fumbling the puck. He was fighting it a lot tonight. It happens, sometimes, Marner and Matthews have had a lot of those nights this season where the puck just wasn't cooperating with them. It wasn't sticking with them. Makar had one of those nights offensively, but he also just was sloppy in his own end, which, I'll take it because it led to a lot of Leafs chances. Calling it a Hurricanes type game is genuinely the worst thing you could say to me. Well, I call it like it is. Every team needs their goalie to win them a game. Yes, Matthew, they absolutely do. And we'll get to Joseph Wool in a second here. But if not for Blackwood, Avs get beat 5-1. And yes, Blackwood also had a lot of good saves in this one too, especially in the third. There was that sequence where Matthews and Nyes almost hooked up on a goal. Then Matthews had another great chance. Nylander and Tavares had some great work in the third period as well. Wool played great tonight. If him and Stoley play this way for the rest of the regular season, I could see a first in the division. Hey. All of you owe me an apology because all of you were calling me crazy when I said Wool and Stolarz should split the rest of the season. All of you were saying Stolarz needs to be the starter the rest of the way. And now, look now. Now Wool is looking like he might be the game one starter. All of you owe me an apology for that. You were giving me some heat for that. So, as I said, high danger chances in the first, 3-2 in favor of the Avs. Absolutely nothing happening. But at the end of the first period, the Leafs get a power play. Their only power play of the night, but it bleeds into the second period. And to start the second, the Leafs now, at the end of the first, I was going insane. Actually, even to start the second, because the drop back pass, whatever. But the Leafs get the zone, and Austin Matthews, this has been a more low-key development, but we saw this in the other game against the Avalanche this season, where Matthews was sitting below the right circle. Instead of, sitting in the one-timer spot, he was a lot lower towards the goal line. And on this, in Colorado, we saw a fantastic play where he just froze Toews to open a passing lane to Tavares in front, and Tavares was able to bury. In this game, Matthews goes to that same spot, he gets it, and he just throws it to the net. What have we been saying all season? Throw it to the net, throw it to the net, throw it to the net, because that's what this power play struggles to do when they get stagnant, is they just don't shoot. In this play, Matthews isn't necessarily shooting, he's trying to hit Nye's back door. Toews gets a stick on it, but it flutters up and into the net. I won't complain. Austin Matthews gets another goal, his fourth in the past 3 games. Leafs take the lead. Now, this is where I do have to complain, because a short while later, the Avs get a power play. And I have some notes on the penalty kill. That'll be the third segment. But the Avs get a power play, and Mitch Marner makes a fantastic play at the blue line, swats it down through the neutral zone, and Makar and McKinnon have to collect it at their own blue line. 1 second later, it feels like, McKinnon is back in the Leafs zone. He just skates through the Leafs like nothing. And then the Avs set up Nathan McKinnon, league's leading point scorer, or he is just at the left circle and just skating downhill. And there was no one even trying to pressure him. And he's able to send a nifty, very nice little backhand sauce into the middle to Nichushkin, the choo-choo train, who is also just completely uncovered, ties the game at 1. And this was frustrating because the Leafs penalty kill, this is kind of a preview, way too passive. And this has been a problem for a long time. The Leafs penalty kill is way too passive. They've been terrible in 2025. And this is just another instance of that. Now, the Leafs end up winning the game thanks to a penalty kill that we'll talk about in a little bit. But on the whole, was not impressed with that aspect. And that gave the Avs some quality chances on the power play throughout the game that was not a fan of. But rest of the second, the Leafs, were the better team in the second period. The Leafs started to, as the game opened up at 5-on-5, Toronto was certainly the better team because, Kay saying, I gotta go and lie face down on the ground for a bit and enjoy your show and the win. Cheers, Kay. Thanks for tuning in. And sorry that we had to beat your Avs tonight. But Matthews and Marner, they really opened this game up. Austin Matthews, like I said, he was just fantastic in this game. And Mitch Marner deserves a lot of credit as well. They were just stretching the Avs out. It wasn't so much like the Avs are a super fast team, right? Super fast team. And when the Leafs play the Avs, their lack of foot speed really shows. And you saw that in stretches in this game. Every time McKinnon or Nietzsche started picking up steam through the neutral zone, you kind of go, uh-oh, like what's going to happen? Now, Jake McCabe, Chris Tanev, Brandon Carlo, fantastic in this game. But there was that uh-oh factor because of the Avs speed. The Leafs, they were doing good work in transition. Nylander had a few plays where he would get a step on a guy and then not end up getting a chance just for whatever reason. There was a 2-on-1 in the first where shoot it, Willie, please. But what the Leafs were doing is they were doing a good job stretching the Avs out, but then they were getting in on the forecheck. They were forcing turnovers out of the Avs defense, and then they were working them on the cycle. This is how you have to beat Colorado. You're not going to beat them in a race, right? But what you can do is you can just hold the puck, break them down, get in on the forecheck, and keep the puck away from their speedsters, which is what Toronto was doing in this game. Now, was it the most effective? At times it was, at times it wasn't, but the Leafs were doing a good, the top line especially, had a fantastic game, I thought, in this one. I track positive and negative events that in this game, and it's very subjective because what a positive or negative event is, good play, bad play. It's just my opinion. But I had noted Austin Matthews as having the most positive events in this game and Marner having the second most. McCabe also had a ton for me. Like, I thought that the McCabe-Tanev pairing was as good as it's ever looked. And Matthews and Marner lined up against McKinnon for most of the game were fantastic as well. So we go to the third period, and This was funny. This was, like, genuinely, this is one of the most comedic moments of the game for me, right? So the Leafs on the penalty kill. I'm just writing this because I want to remember this. So the Leafs are on the penalty kill. Simone Benoit, who had a few nice plays on this penalty kill, he clears the puck, ices it. Great, puck is out. The official dives to try to avoid the puck, ends up sliding perfectly to block it and keep it in the neutral zone, which allows Steven Lorentz to skate into it and pick it up. No one's around him. He skates into the zone, and the holiest of snipes from Steven Lorentz, shorthanded, just rocket off his stick, gives the Leafs the lead, a lead they would not relinquish. It was one of the funniest plays of the year. I've never seen, here, you guys in the chat right now, have you ever seen an official dive to try to avoid the puck like that? And then have you ever seen an official dive and stop the puck like that? Because that was absolutely hilarious. And the Leafs are able to take advantage. And again, not a goal that you're counting on from Lorentz. Absolute snipe show. Absolutely unfriggin' believable. There were a lot of misses. They should work on shooting in most of the practices. Yeah, the Leafs did have missed the net a little bit, but they should definitely split in the playoffs. I actually don't know if Woll and Stolar should split. I'm generally against splitting your goalies in the playoffs, but it is nice to know that if one falters, you have another one ready to go. The Domi line had a lot of juice in the beginning, but they couldn't connect. They didn't look as noticeable later in the game. I thought McMahon was decent in this one. Like, he wasn't necessarily notable, but yeah, I agree. Robertson was a ghost in this one. And Domi, I thought Domi was playing with pace, but I don't think it was necessarily useful pace like it has been in the past few games. I think this was one of your classic Domi games where he's a bit of an energy at the Energizer Bunny, but he's not really doing anything. He's kind of just skating. So moving on, the Leafs 2-1 lead at this point. There was a game against Florida not too long ago where Florida was up 3-2 in the third period, and they were able to grind the game out, and just grind the game to a halt. And how the way they did that was two things. The Leafs, what do they want to do? They want to get in on the forecheck, and they want to get in on the cycle. What Florida did is they were forechecking like crazy in the third period, and they were forcing the Leafs to waste time. And then when Toronto would get in the neutral zone, they were limiting the Leafs' speed so that when they would dump it in, they didn't have speed to go get the puck, and Florida was able to get a clean recovery, which would lead to a breakout, and they would get back in on the forecheck. And that's exactly what the Leafs were doing to the Avs in this third period. They would get in on the forecheck, they would force turnovers, they'd even get a few chances on that Blackwood had to turn away. And then when Colorado would come the other way, they'd stifle them in the neutral zone. They would get everyone to a standstill. That way, when Colorado dumped it in, it was a clean defensive zone recovery that they could get out of the zone. Now, the Leafs did not play this strategy nearly as good as Florida did against them. That being said, Colorado is also a very, very good team, a Stanley Cup contender. They have proven championship pedigree. So I'll give them a little bit of a pass. But I was very, very, very impressed with the Tanev and McCabe pair, which I said McCabe was fantastic tonight. The Matthews line was fantastic defensively. Again, I'll talk about Matthews more specifically in a second, but I also really liked Carlo and Riley. I thought were not necessarily like they weren't having as many flash defensive plays, but they were having some very solid defensive plays where it's the kind of plays you don't notice, the little things, just simple breakouts, simple clearing attempts that are going to go unnoticed, but I thought that pair had a very good game as well. Benoit was fine. I think he did enough to stay in the lineup tomorrow night, although I still want to see Myers at some point. The only defenseman I thought had a bad game was Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I thought OEL was terrible, honestly, for most of the game. He really has struggled on the third pair, playing with Benoit. Another reason why I want to get Benoit out of the lineup is so that OEL can slide over to his natural left side, because he looks so uncomfortable right now. I don't know what's going on with him, but just has not been his best stretch of hockey lately. So the Leafs grind this game out. They end up winning, but as you guys have noted in the chat, Joseph Woll, the brick wall, the great wall of Toronto, whatever you want to call him, absolutely unbelievable tonight. A 38 save performance, only gives up 1 goal, 0 5-on-5 goals, and his glove was on fire tonight. He had a couple of 10-bellers with the glove, most notably on Brock Nelson on a play where there was just a horrible turnover. The Leafs were cheating for offense, and the Avs come in 3-on-2. Brock Nelson just stops in the middle of the ice. He's like prime slot. This is a everywhere you want to be as a shooter. Brock Nelson was there with time and space, and he tries to pick the corner, and Joseph Woll windmill robs him. Absolutely spectacular, and he had a number of fantastic saves. There was also that sequence at the end of the second period where Woll is just scrambling around, and this is what Joseph Woll does really well. He's super athletic, super good with his glove, super good positionally. Sometimes he gets beat from distance, but what Joseph Woll's defining number one, like this is what he does best, this is what makes him so special, is in and around the goal. Within 5 to 10 feet, he is just so solid. He doesn't lose his crease. He's always between the puck and the net, and he never gets beat wide. Like whenever there's a chance where a player is trying to stretch him out and go around him, he very rarely gets beaten that way. I've seen instances where on like a breakaway, for example, where you can fake him to stretch him out, but if it's just a play where, let's say you're on the right side of the crease and you're going to the left side and you're trying to just go around him, Woll is really good at stretching out, man. He's really good at just staying, like holding his ground and pushing his pad out aggressively, cutting off the angle. He is just so solid in and around the net in the tight areas around the crease. I thought this was about as good as Woll has played all season. This might have been his best game of the season. And as we briefly talked about earlier, Joseph Woll, 2 weeks ago, we were saying that Stolarz is the game 1 starter. It was like unanimous that Stolarz was going to start game 1 and there wasn't a competition. At this point, it's now an open competition. Stolarz's play has slipped a little bit, and Woll has been great for a couple games now. I would say that, so we have less than a month now until the end of the season. less than a month. Again, split the starts. Wool plays what? Like, Wool played tonight, Stolars will play tomorrow, Wool plays Saturday, Stolars plays the next one. Alternate starts every game. Hot Hand is going to be your starter in the playoffs. And I know, I think it was Matthew that said they should split in the playoffs. I do disagree with that, because let's look at Boston, right? Last year, Boston, they had Allmark and Swayman. Fantastic duo. And in the playoffs, they didn't know who their starter was. So they split them the first 2 games. The only time the Leafs scored 3 goals in that series was the game Allmark came in, because he came in cold, right? So I would absolutely like to see one guy hold the crease. The only reason I would have for both goalies playing in the first round is either injury, or one of them is absolutely terrible in the first 2 games of the series. Like, let's say Wool starts and you lose games 1 and 2 and Wool gives up some bad goals in the first 2 games. Yeah, he's done. But I'm riding with one of these guys, whoever earns it. And at this, Sawchuk and Bauer split in 67. Matthew, I got some bad news for you, bud. We're coming up on 60 years it's been since then. This is not the 60s. I'm sorry, man. You don't do that. You got to, I think you got to just ride with the hot hand. But anyways, the Leafs win, much needed win. The Leafs are now tied with Florida for first in the division. Tampa does have a game in hand, so they can make it a 3-way tie. But all 3 teams play tomorrow. Toronto plays in New York, beatable. Florida plays in Columbus. You probably expect Florida to win, but Columbus is fighting for a playoff spot. Maybe a miracle happens. And Tampa is in Dallas. Dallas can definitely come through for you. And if that happens, there is legitimate potential for the Leafs to be first in the Atlantic, 2 points up on the Panthers and 4 up on the Lightning 24 hours from now. We just have to wait and see. With that being said, I'm going to turn us over to our second segment. Of course, as I do, a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Make sure you follow us if you're on a podcasting platform. Leave us a review. And of course, go check out our merch as well over at thegameovernetwork.com. You can find merch for all of the Canadian markets, hoodies, shirts, mugs, hats, whatever, you name it. We've got it, thegameovernetwork.com. And again, go subscribe to all of the Game Over shows for every Canadian market as well. Just Game Over and then whatever Canadian city as the YouTube channel. Go check them out. This second segment, I've alluded to it a lot. Austin frickin' Matthews. We have been begging for a performance like this. Austin Matthews, I think he had actually the empty net attempt, I think, was the 12th shot attempt in this game. 12 shot attempts in one game. This is the Austin Matthews we've been begging for. The Austin Matthews that shoots from everywhere and, more importantly, looks dangerous from everywhere. But I don't want to talk about that, because that's one part of the game. Austin Matthews, he's a great shooter. Yeah, that's great. He should shoot a lot. Alex Ovechkin shoots a lot. That's great. You want that. Austin Matthews was as dominant away from the puck and defensively as he has been all season. And more importantly, Austin Matthews tonight against the Colorado Avalanche, against Nathan MacKinnon, who is, again, the league's leading point scorer, will win the Art Ross this year. He went toe-to-toe with him, and he outplayed him. And that is what you need from the highest paid player in the league, is you need him to be able to go again. I'm going to bring this game up again. Not too long ago, the Leafs play the Florida Panthers, and Alexander Barkov puts on a defensive clinic and completely shuts down Austin Matthews and the top line. Now, Austin Matthews a week and a bit ago did not have the sauce, all right? He did not have the sauce. Matthews tonight, he had the sauce. When the puck was on his stick, your eyes widen. You lean forward in your seat. You're ready for something explosive to happen, and it almost did a lot of times. Matthews could have scored 3 tonight. But more importantly, Austin Matthews went toe-to-toe with Nathan MacKinnon, and he shut him down. How many dangerous attempts did Nathan MacKinnon have 5-on-5 tonight? I think he was credited with one where it was like the shot from the point was deflected and McKinnon was standing in front and the puck rolled to him and he was like literally this close to the crease. Zero chance of the puck going in because Joseph Woll just cut off the angle. That was McKinnon's only good attempt tonight. Austin Matthews, you want to talk about elite defense. Austin Matthews at 5-on-5 tonight, because yes, McKinnon did get a primary assist on the power play because the Leafs penalty kill didn't pressure him. Fine. When Austin Matthews was on the ice, Nathan McKinnon got nothing. Nothing. And he is a huge reason why the Avs were not able to claw back into this game the same way they did a week and a half ago in Colorado when the Leafs had a 4-2 lead and they blew it. Because the Avs got rolling. They got their speed in transition. They were able to get in on the forecheck because the Leafs couldn't slow them down. Tonight, you line match Matthews against McKinnon. Jake McCabe has a better game to slow down some of those transition attempts. And the Leafs outworked them. They just, again, fantastic effort. Austin Matthews tonight, this is the Austin Matthews I was terrified of in the Four Nations Championship. The Matthews that every time a pass was anywhere in his vicinity, he got a stick on it. Anytime the puck was in the offensive zone and there was a board battle, he won it. Anytime he got the puck in even a little bit of open ice, he was getting a good quality shot attempt off that made you wince. Absolutely spectacular. And look, again, the shots on the scoreboard are going to look bad. But the Avs did not have as many chances as the shots would indicate. They end with 14 high danger chances to the Leafs 11. 7 of those came in the second period. And I'm pretty sure 3 of the Avs attempts came in that last 50 seconds of the second period where it was just a scramble drill in front of the net. I'm telling you guys, the Avalanche were not as dangerous as the shots on goal would indicate. Those were phantom stats. Those were Carolina Hurricanes ass shots. They were not dangerous. And Joseph Woll, yes, he was spectacular on the ones that were. But don't let that fool you. The Leafs did play good defensively in the third period, and they did shut that game down. So, is Austin Matthews back? I don't know. If this is the Austin, I will say this. If this is the Austin Matthews we get the rest of the season and in the playoffs, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Because the Leafs right now, the way that they've been playing the last 2-3 weeks, hasn't been great, and their margin for error has been 0. Anytime they make a mistake, it's magnified because they couldn't make it up offensively. If Austin Matthews plays like that, the margin for error grows a little bit. If Austin Matthews starts scoring like we know he can, the margin for error grows a little bit. Now, Austin Matthews' career low is 34 goals. He's at 27 right now. Matthews probably gets a hattie tomorrow. If Matthews gets a hattie tomorrow, that's going to be a fun stream if that happens. Austin Matthews has 27 goals right now. His career low is 34. I think he can beat that. I think he can get up to 35. Do you think Kampf gets put back in? And who do you take out? Me take out Pontus for Kampf. So I'm resigning myself to Scott Laughton being the second line left winger. But if Järnkrok wants to take that, I'm fine with it. I think you absolutely need Kampf in the lineup for his penalty killing because he is a legitimately good penalty killer. If not for nothing else, he's a good penalty killer. I would not hate it's a very hard sell. Don't get me wrong. I would not hate if your fourth line is Lorenz, Kampf, Laughton. Laughton is not a center, and he has not looked good. He's been fine on the fourth line, but you didn't pay a first round pick for a fourth liner, but you might just have to take that. To take that. Leafs collapsed in that game. Collapsed, yes, but don't mistake collapse with got caved in. I still wish the Leafs could clear their zone better. Too many lame no-look clearing passes. Yes, OEL was a big aggressor, or he was bad with that. Benoit, hit or miss. McCabe, Tanev were better, but Marner definitely had a couple of those. Nyes has been underratedly bad with that. I thought Tavares had a few turnovers where he just wasn't paying attention. Holmberg, there was at least one play where Holmberg, as the Leafs were exiting the zone, turned it over in the neutral zone and forced the Leafs to turn back. He was a bad. He had a couple of bad turnovers as well. But like in general, I thought the Leafs were fine at clearing the zone because they were doing a good job of getting to pucks first and getting out with possession. It's like you're not going to go the whole period when you're leading with the other team just not getting the puck in the offensive zone. Like that's not going to happen. But I thought the Leafs were good. Like I was very content with that third period. I was very content, like especially that last 10 minutes. I was very content with it. The Leafs were going, like, even when the Avs would generate a chance, the Leafs went down and generated a chance of their own. So if you, in a game that it's a 1-goal game, if you're going chance for chance in a game that you're already leading and you're still not even giving up that many chances, that's perfectly fine by me. And again, shout out to Austin Matthews, one of his better games of the season. I'm going to turn us over to our third segment now, where we need to talk a little bit about the penalty kill. But again, as always, make sure you like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. And if you want to support a network of young broadcasters, make sure you check out our Patreon down in the description below. We have both free and paid tiers. And if even the free tier gives you access to our Discord server, you can go join the Game Over Network Discord server and you can have some fun conversations with us on there. A network we have like 120 people in there right now. So come make sure you join the Discord server as well to talk all things hockey with a bunch of other Canadian hockey fans. So, penalty kill. It's been bad. It's since, was it January 27th that it's been like 30th? Not great. Now, I know they scored a shorthanded goal in this game. And by the way, shout out special teams because every single power play in this game, there was a goal on them. One of them happened to be a shorthanded goal for the Leafs. But the Leafs score on the power play, the Avs score on the power play, the Leafs score shorthanded, 0 5-on-5 goals. There could have been a lot for... the Colorado also had some good chances, so I won't speak too ill of this, but if all of those 5-on-5 chances fall, Leafs probably come out pretty okay in this game. But... shorthanded, the Leafs are way too passive. When you look at what the Leafs power play has struggled with in the spring and playoffs of previous seasons, the number one thing is aggressive penalty kills. Penalty kills that don't let them set up. Penalty kills that challenge them in the neutral zone, force them to do their drop back pass, and force them to pass it to the half wall, force the puck out of the primary puck handler's, like, off his stick, right? If we go back to the power play goal the Avs scored, how do they score that? Nathan MacKinnon walks in the zone untouched, then gets the puck and isn't challenged. That can't happen. Now, the Leafs got better at this as the game went on the second Colorado chance. That being said, it's still not good enough. Now, we've talked about Austin Matthews on the penalty kill. For as good defensively as Matthews is and as capable as he is on the penalty kill, I want to limit Austin Matthews' minutes because I want him to play 19 dominant minutes a game instead of 22 good moments a game, right? I want him off the penalty kill. Marner you can leave on because he's a very good penalty killer, but this is where the David Kampf equation comes back into focus because I want David Kampf to be paired with Marner on the penalty kill because that is a legitimately good forward duo. Your first two units should be Kampf Marner with McCabe Tanev. That's your top penalty kill unit. Then Lawton and Yarncroke with I guess OEL Carlo. And then it can be Riley and Benoit with Matthews and Nyes or something. I don't know. Or McMahon, whatever you want. But Matthews shouldn't be on the top penalty kill unit, but again, this is a Lane Lambert problem at this point. For those who don't know, Lane Lambert is the assistant coach that runs the Leafs penalty kill. This is a Lane Lambert problem. He has got to get through to these guys that you cannot just sit in the middle of the ice and try to block everything on the power play. At 5-on-5, I know that the Leafs do collapse, like as Terry was alluding to, and they pack in the middle. They don't give up high. This is the key point of the Berube defensive system is they don't give up high quality passes. If you're going to get a shot near the net, that's not great, but fine. As long as you're not getting those dangerous passes to the back door or east-west to really spread out the defense. That's what the Leafs are trying to prevent. The problem is when you're on the penalty kill, you don't have the extra body to help you do that. So when teams are in their umbrella and they're cycling around the top, the Leafs still have to rotate, and their forwards have to rotate at the top. So one guy will slowly creep out, and then the puck will get rotated, and he has to then scramble back to the middle, and the other guy will slowly creep out. But the problem the Leafs run into is they'll pack in the middle after not trying to challenge the other team in the neutral zone at all. And what'll happen? It'll go to the point. Let's say it goes to the right flank. Forward will slowly creep out. And then the other forward will slowly creep out to the point to try to cut off that pass. Except he doesn't get far enough. So then they'll cycle it to the point, cycle it to the other flank, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling again to reset. So teams that are efficient with their passes, I'm looking specifically at Florida and Tampa Bay, who are your most likely playoff opponents in some capacity, especially Tampa Bay. Nikita Kucherov will eviscerate this penalty kill as is right now, because the Leafs are not fast enough to challenge. They can be, but they aren't. They're not aggressive enough to get out to the flank quick enough, to adjust to these passes around the outside quick enough, so that if a team like Tampa Bay, where Kucherov does his one-timer passes, the Leafs penalty kill isn't thinking and processing quick enough to intercept those passes or prevent those passes. So, if we're projecting a potential series against Tampa Bay, I would like the Leafs odds at 5-on-5. I'd relatively like the Leafs odds on the power play. I think the goaltending matchup has a potential to be even, but the number one way the Tampa Bay Lightning can and possibly will beat the Leafs in the series is Nikita Kucherov in the Lightning power play blacks out and goes like 45%. And it's possible based on what the Leafs have done on the penalty kill for the last 2.5 months. If there was any single thing that I'm looking at to say this will cost the Leafs a series, it's that. Number 2 would be the lack of depth scoring, but maybe Domi, McMahon, Robertson get something going. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that is this is the number one thing that I'm like, you got to address it before the playoffs start. You have, how many games do we have left? The Leafs have 14, is it? We have 14 games left to fix the penalty kill. That's my challenge to you, Lane Lambert. With that being said, I'm going to turn us over now to our fourth and final segment. This is the part of the show where we invite questions. So all of you in the chat, if you have any questions about the Leafs, about the playoffs, about possible opponents, about anything, this is the time to ask your questions now. And as always, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto as well. Ooh, I was talking too fast there. My throat's starting to hurt. Excuse me. Now, as we wait for questions, I'm just going to see what the Twitterverse has been saying about this game. Lorentz on his bizarre goal in which he was trying to get off the ice. I saw the ref go down, saw the puck get loose, and thought I might as well reroute. I'll take that bounce. I've had a few go the other way this year. Awesome. Craig Berube on Matthews' line's performance in the win. We talked about putting the McKinnon line on their heels a little bit, and they did that. The line was really good. Berube on Lawton, I think he's trying to probably play the game without making mistakes. He's overthinking things. Be aggressive, do your thing, and that will come around. I do believe that he wants to do well. He just has to loosen up. That does correlate with, I was watching the Leaf Blueprint today, which, by the way, if you don't know, the Toronto Maple Leafs YouTube channel, the Leaf Blueprint, they uploaded like a 10-minute video on the trade deadline. And Scott Lawton, in that video, he definitely comes off as, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but he definitely feels the weight of playing in Toronto the same way that like Mitch Marner does. The difference is obviously Mitch Marner's a better player, but Lawton definitely seemed to come off being like, I don't want to mess this up. I know what this means to me. I know what this means to the city. I don't want to let the fans down. So definitely, I don't know. Lawton is a weird one to watch. So let me here. I'll go to Maple Leaf Hot Stove. Always post the post game quotes. On Joseph Wool's 38 save performance, Berube said that he was excellent. He made some real good saves, held us in the first period. I didn't think we were on our toes in the first period. We looked like we were a bit tentative and not aggressive enough. We were kind of watching them move around and skate. I mean, yeah, but as I said earlier, those shots weren't the most dangerous. I thought Wool was a lot better in the second period. I thought that was his best period. On whether Wool has started to differentiate himself as the game one starter, he has played excellently in the last 3 games. He has been really good. We'll figure all that out. Definitely a non-answer there. But, yeah. He specifically shut out McCabe Tanev as well. Yeah, so, I mean, just some pretty solid performances. How big a part did Berube play in this? Did you see a big pivot since the last Avs game? So here's the thing. I think this is not so much to do with Berube. I think this is more to do with the Leafs' attention to detail. What's the best way to put this? Because I don't think there was a schematic difference in how the Leafs played. I think the Leafs just played better, if that makes sense. I think the game against Calgary, I think the biggest part of that win is the Leafs needed some confidence. The Leafs came out against Calgary and Calgary had no interest in playing in that game on Monday. So Toronto was able to play a full 60 minutes a lot easier. And I think that gave them the confidence to know, hey, if we play a full 60, the right things will happen. The first 10 minutes, the Leafs didn't necessarily play their best, but the back 50 was definitely what the Leafs want to be about. So the shots were like 9-1 in the first 10 minutes. And after that, they were like 30-25 after that, right? So I don't think it was a schematic difference, Luke. I think it was just the Leafs played the way they want to play a lot. Like they executed at a higher level. With Carlo and Riley getting used to each other, do you think he will start to push the offense? What do we mean, Riley here? I need clarification, Matthew. Do we mean will Riley start to push for offense, or what? Or do you mean like will that pairing being stable allow the Leafs to be playing offense more? Give me a clarification on that one. Because, but by the way, Brendan Carlo, still super solid. Still super solid. And if anyone is still doubting that acquisition, I don't know what to tell you because he's been unreal. Yes, Riley. I hope so, Matthew. So this is something I want to bring to the forefront of this conversation with Riley. Because when it comes to the playoffs, Morgan Riley's number one trait, his bread and butter, is his ability to create rush chances with his skating. The problem is, in the regular season, that hasn't happened this year, obviously. And last year, and even in 2023 regular season, the chances just weren't falling for him. He wasn't creating them enough. And it just wasn't making up for his deficiencies. The difference is, in the playoffs, rush chances are at a premium, which means Riley's ability to jump up in the play and create rush chances becomes a lot more valuable. Let's say Morgan Riley, in a regular season game, let's say he creates 3 rush chances. Well, in a regular season game where there might be 15 rush chances, that's not as big of a difference. In the playoffs, there might be 6 rush chances. And if Riley is still making 3 rush chances with his skating, suddenly that's a lot more valuable, and that value is a lot more pronounced. So as we transition into the playoffs, that's the one thing I'm looking for with Riley is he still able to generate rush offense when the rush chances in general are down and when the structures tighten up? Because Riley's ability to jump up in the rush really helps with breaking down structure off the rush and allowing the Leafs to establish their cycle without needing to dump and chase. So that is what I'm looking for with Riley, and I sure hope so, because for as much as Brendan Carlo helps Morgan Riley be a net nothing pair right now, there's nothing negative, there's nothing positive. There's just nothing going on. That's fine. If your second pair is not allowing anything but not doing anything special, that's okay. Not when one of them makes $7.5 million. So I don't trust Riley in transition in the playoffs, and I don't trust Riley in front of his own net. So I'm hoping the offense makes up for it. Does anyone know if Brendan LeBaire is still doing post-game shows for the Jets? I don't know. Let me try to answer that for you. I don't have an update for. Oh yeah, he's busy with school right now. So I would assume he might come back for some of the playoff stuff, but that if there's been pauses in the Winnipeg shows, that would be the reason. Is Ty can't do it all on his own, and Brendan is just a little tied up with school, which happens for young broadcasters when this is a side gig for them and they're still in university. We lads out there. With that being said, I'll give you guys another second here if there's any other questions, last second questions. But if not, thank you all for being so active in the chat. Makes these shows a lot more fun when there's constant conversation going on throughout the show. So thank you so much for that. Again, last second questions, get those in. And aside from that, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. If you're on a podcasting platform, make sure to follow us and leave us a rating, a review, all that. Make sure to follow the Game Over Network on Twitter, Bluesky, Instagram, all that. You can find me on Twitter and Bluesky at Zach Payne 41. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the post game after the Rangers game. Cheers.